Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Board of Health meeting, Wednesday, December 10th, 2025, Mendon Town Hall. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Tom here.
Joyce here.
Jack here.
Alan here. All right. We'll open it up to good and welfare for the public. Is there anyone at home?
Nobody is online with us tonight.
No one in the audience, so we'll move on to new business. Board of Health dumpster regulations, review and discussion.
All right, I'm going to turn that over with Vice Chairman Bickner. I know this has been on the agenda for a couple of times, but just time wasn't having it. But tonight seemed like a pretty good time to talk about the regulations.
Yeah, so I can see what my name is on this thing. So reason why I wanted to kind of do a review is primarily as far as dumpster regulations go, is a situation that Jack and I encountered in town over the summertime, which I think is still an issue.
It's no longer an issue.
It's no longer.
We have their application. Well, they have their permit now.
Okay. So the issue centered around a dumpster that has been sitting on a property at North Ave for quite a long time, for months actually.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about because I see it myself. I'm saying.
Yeah. So the dumpster was mainly used as a C&D. I think they were doing probably some clean outs of the home.
Mhm.
And basically the debris I believe that's in the dumpster is only debris from the home. I don't think there's any waste material in that dumpster.
That was it was bought. It was a transfer from We Buy Ugly Houses type of
Okay.
company. So that's who they sold it to. So I was trying hard to contact somebody that knows what's going on, and no, the property owner wasn't available. So Tom mentioned that I went out to the vendor at the dumpster and had some communication with them.
What was the dumpster?
Pellet disposal at Cranston, Rhode Island.
Okay.
And they were obviously not permitted as a trash hauler in Mendon.
Well, it's good that, since then you got the permit.
It's been a few times that I've had communication with the owner, and again, just silence, silence, silence. So I did a certified letter with town council, CC'd at the bottom, and I got a response back. And I got the application and the permit fee right away.
Okay, and they were made aware, the dumpster company was made aware of our regulations.
Regulations and the state regulations as well.
So,
Because they're in Rhode Island.
Correct.
right. So it's nice that they're permitted. However, that dumpster's been there for probably close to 6 months. And I know we kind of have a little guideline in our dumpster regulations about how long a dumpster can be there. Before then, if it did have to continue, they could come back. We could approve it as some sort of project beyond what was anticipated. I think we allow for like a 90-day
Right.
initial.
That sounds right.
Right.
And that came about because we had other dumpsters that seemed to be on properties for extended periods.
Right.
Excuse me.
Hello.
Town of Mendon Board of Health meeting?
He's the owner of Blue Drive School, the school in 5 Hamilton Street, Mendon.
Yeah.
We heard that there was a meeting tonight.
Okay. You're welcome to sit in the audience, and when we get to that agenda item, you can come up and introduce yourself.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Please continue, Tom.
Yeah, so it kind of went to, Jack alluded to, it took a long time to get any feedback. It went to what kind of authority we might have to take action if some situation like this would arise, where you get no response and you're trying to, really in this case here, I would have been looking to remove the dumpster from the property. But I believe they had a point. I did get back to you and said that supposedly it wasn't their domain because the homeowner's the one that hired them.
The homeowner was the one that originally hired them, but then the homeowner obviously sold and left the dumpster there.
Right, they're gone.
They're gone.
Right. So I guess the question I would have is all this time,
What was it? What were they thinking? The people that owned it? own the dumpster. They're not thinking they should be called condemning.
Well, I think he's referring to the people that live in the home. that
I
hire.
understand what you're saying, but I
Right.
mean, wouldn't the people that own the dumpster
Right, tell us,
Usually,
no.
themselves?
yeah, usually when you hire a dumpster, you size it based on what you're gonna
Right.
put in it. They help you size it.
Yep,
And then usually it's dropped on your property for a period of time for a price.
Right.
Provided you don't go over in tonnage and you don't call and say we need it for another week.
okay,
So to Joyce's point, the expectations would be that if the dumpster were dropped off and it was dropped off in for an agreed 2-week period, because it's a temporary dumpster.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That in 2 weeks, the dumpster company would be looking for it.
in this case, yeah, these people didn't seem to care at all
Apparently,
about getting the dumpster
Right.
back, because it's been.
Not at all.
Like I said, months, this goes back to.
Months,
June,
July,
summertime,
July,
it's midsummer.
yeah.
So there was no concern to getting the dumpster back. However, kind of goes against what we have outlined in our regulations for the guidance and be able to keep one on the property. And why the discussion, why I wanted to raise it tonight was if we should have something more in place that potentially could give us more authority to take action should we come across a situation like this. I mean, in this case here, homeowner's gone. They're not around, the house is still empty, I believe.
Correct.
It's great that the dumpster company has got a permit now to have it there. But it's still,
paying for the permit, you suppose.
The Bell disposal company paid for their permit. But who's paying for the dumpster to be on the property?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because the way a dumpster company makes money is by turning that dumpster.
Right,
So to have a dumpster tied up on a property, you're not making a dime. So that it makes no sense at all. I agree that it would be nice if we had some penalty that we could enforce.
well, and then it goes to the discussion.
Yeah, if we were to pull the dumpster off, we need a place to put it. We need a company to haul it.
Mhm.
If we don't empty it, let's say we put it down behind the highway. Now we got a dumpster full of C and D sitting there. There's no guarantee that the dumpster company is gonna, want that dumpster back based on what you're telling me.
Yeah.
If we haul it, we'll have it hauled to be disposed of.
Yeah.
You can't dump it for free. We're gonna be on the hook for $500 or $600 to dump the
The
dumpster,
cost, sure.
plus the trucking. So we could be into it for $800, $1,000, and we got a dumpster that really doesn't belong to us, that's empty down behind the highway barn until someone reimburses us. You
well,
know, that's like holding somebody's car that you towed
Sure.
in what do they call that?
Repo.
Repo, yeah, repo.
Impound.
Or impounds.
I even think you and I even talked about that, like taking the dumpster away and,
Well, would there be a group that you could contact, say, look, we like a car. We have a dumpster situation here, it's in violation. Doesn't seem to be any desire to remove it from the property. We like you to come and take it away. Yes, there'll be an expense for that. But
you can tell them to keep the dumpster.
we then,
Well, not really.
however, did we in fact call the property at the owner of the dumpster? Did we call them and say, look, get that dumpster out of here?
They say either get the dumpster out of there or send in your permit. And then we get the permit.
Right,
Well, they're like till months after the fact.
right.
Well,
But what I'm saying is, if we started that right in the beginning, but you know, you didn't probably see it there. So, I mean, you didn't
well, this
recognize.
company's been aware for months that we have.
The companies knows it's there,
Sure,
but did we know it was there that whole time?
sure.
And
This goes
so
back to.
neither one of us did anything about it?
Well, we have nothing in regulations that would allow us to take a step to do anything. And they had no desire to come and take the dumpster away. So
I
it's
mean,
still sitting
so
at the
you did talk to them.
Yes,
But it took a while.
it took a while, yes,
to get
because I got the answering service every single time I called.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, now that they've quote unquote are permitted, did the question come up again with them? We need you to take the dumpster from the property.
No, because I believe they're still using it.
I didn't think anybody was there, was using it.
Because I think when I went by, when I had my Northridge meeting last week, I saw people there, I believe on the roof, throwing stuff into the dumpster. So I don't know if it was emptied and it came back. So they're still working on the house.
Okay, so
Which
it's
house?
possible the dumpster could have been picked up, emptied, and brought back.
Correct.
It's across the street.
From the church.
Do we know who the
Okay, so
legal owner of the
that one
property?
was right.
It's just like a we buy ugly houses.
Yeah, and that's fine.
But there's no name. I'll have to ask Sherry from.
Yeah.
Get more detailed.
We should probably find out how to contact present owner of the property. Doesn't really matter who they are or what organization they are.
Mhm.
And they need to be made aware
To
of
get
our,
their stuff
of our
together.
regulations.
Right.
And they need to be aware that if the dumpster is gonna be there for a longer period than what's allotted, that they need to come back to us. And if they can't comply with our dumpster regulations, they need to remove the dumpster completely and get out of that. I don't know what else to
So
say.
the dumpster has already been there longer than a lot amount of time
Right.
based on our regulations.
Right,
And the owner is, I think it's this company.
Yeah, like, I don't know the exact name, but it's like
Yeah.
we buy ugly houses.
And so the question is, does this dumpster company actually have a contractual relationship with the owner of the property?
I'll have to ask them.
Yeah, because it sounds like this dumpster existed before present owner took the property over.
Correct.
Yeah, I under the assumption that the previous owner was the one that brought hell in it.
Okay, so that's an
Right down.
assumption. We don't know if it's a fact.
I don't,
Okay.
no, I don't. It could have been that company from the get-go. They might have purchased the home. That owner could have gone. They might have brought it.
So regardless of how that evolved,
Right.
where we are today, I would say that the present owner of the property needs to be aware of our regulations. It needs to be aware of what they need to do to comply. And they need to communicate with us.
Well, hadn't in previous conversations, hadn't they been aware that the dumpster had already been there way longer than it?
The owner has, the dumpster company has, not the owner itself.
So the dumpster company is as responsible here as the owner. And that's
Right,
actually, our
exactly. That's what
dumpster
I'm saying,
regulations
yeah.
are actually geared more toward the dumpster company
right.
than they are the owner, which kind of goes to the point of discussing this. Made me wonder if we need to actually do something else for the owner side. We can tell an owner, say, hey, FYI, you brought in a company that's either had their dumpster there too long, but they're not permanent, which we've had circumstances of that before. But all the obligation is on the part of the dumpster company, from what I see in the
Well,
regulations.
because, and I think we set it up that way
We did,
because
Yeah.
they're in the business.
that's correct.
They're the ones that apply for the permit. They're the ones that should know how these things work.
Right.
And you would explain that to the person that hires you.
Right.
Oh, you've got a 6 month, your general contractor is saying this is a 6 month project. Well, we need to let the Board of Health know that
Well,
because it's beyond the temporary dumpster period of 3 months.
well, this particular situation makes me wonder if we should actually kind of adjust the dumpster regulations to put as much enforcement on the owner side, property owner side, as the dumpster company side. That's kind of where I'm going with this.
I agree.
I'm fine with that.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's the person that's living there that's hired the dumpster person,
that's correct.
correct, yeah.
Right, I
So,
think the only reason that we didn't put it on the property owner.
Right.
Was because that's not the business that property owner is in. Whether it's a resident or a business, the dumpster people know the dumpster business.
Well, the business is one thing, but the rules and regulations of the town they operate in is something else. And the residents need to be as much aware of those guidelines as a business operating in the
Right,
town.
but the dumpster company applies for a permit, they get a copy of our regulations.
They have a link that they said that they have to read it. They don't get a physical copy.
Okay, but they're made aware of the town of Mendon's regulations. Maybe we need to also make the property owner get that link
Aware.
so that they're aware also.
It wouldn't be a bad idea, so every time, but they're coming into,
On that point, not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
When they do something, building or renovation, they go on to the Viewpoint, the online software for the town. And underneath there, it does state for the Board of Health, is there a dumpster on site? Yes or no? If yes, they have to be permitted. That gives the regulations of Mass General Law. So,
That's right, I think this came up before.
yes, so it is on there. But they can put in E.L. Harvey for a dumpster service and get somebody else that's not on the list. Hell disposal. The whale that you saw on the other one on,
a good example. Now, in that case there, that was another residence we had using another company. They were not permitted. We did do a reach out, I think in that case, to the resident.
correct,
And then that, whether it was,
That Northridge Road?
no, it was Hartford Ave,
Hartford Ave East.
East. Yeah, this goes back during the summertime.
Okay,
About the same time we saw
Same
hell
time.
disposal, yeah.
This other one was discovered.
But that, after we contact the resident, it was gone the next day.
It was gone,
So they got it for a day and gone, done.
so. But there's the added element of being able to include the resident or the property owner in the
Right.
mix.
Right.
If we come across a situation.
Yeah, I think unfortunately in the past, these things arise when someone calls us and makes a complaint. So usually a neighbor or a property in, close proximity to this problem dumpster.
Yeah.
Is usually when we became made aware of it. I know in the past, AJ usually was pretty good at spotting them. I know I spotted one on Blackstone Street a number of years ago.
Sure.
And we checked out, they were permitted. I knocked on the door, talked to the general contractor, and within 24 hours, they took care of it.
right,
And the general contractor took care of it,
right.
not even the dumpster company.
Right.
Once they became aware of it, so that's a kind of a quick fix. When someone says, okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of that, what do I need to do?
Yeah, the people that respond and take action, that's not the issue. The issue that I'm raising are those that don't have any concern that where the board needs to take some additional action. That's my,
How did you become aware of this dumpster? Other than seeing it?
I saw it
Okay,
and I had Jack check on it.
okay, so you took the initiative because it was a company that you didn't recognize on the side of the dumpster.
Actually, that and the other. The eyes of the BOH are watching.
So what that means is that everybody on staff has to pay attention. I mean, and I can recall a situation, I believe it was dumpster divers, that we contacted them and they pretty much told us to get lost.
So I guess what I'm simply trying to get from the board here is there a desire to make a modification that could put a little more guidance or maybe enforcement into the process to include the property owners? And then maybe subsequent actions that could be taken.
I say yes.
I say it's true. I mean, the owner is the one who needs, it.
Well, the property.
Yeah. I mean, the person that called and said, I need a dumpster.
Well, not necessarily. If the property owner hires a roofing company to do their roof, most likely the roofing company is hiring that dumpster. And it's being, the price is passed on in the job cost of the job. Or if you're redoing your kitchen, the general contractor that's doing that job may be in charge of hiring the dumpster for all, for themselves and whatever subcontractors they have.
But basically, it is really for the homeowner.
Well, they're the ones pulling the permit.
Right.
Well, not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily, no,
GC can pull.
correct.
Right, but it is for the homeowner is the one who should be aware of all these things, in my opinion.
I'm not sure they always are in the loop, especially if they hire someone to do something for them. It's
Well-
not just they cleaning out their attic or cleaning out their basement.
So that's what I'm trying to get to is, do we want to put them in the loop? And if we do, if the desire is there, we can do that. We can structure it so that we can, when somebody comes in to have the services utilized in the town, I guess the question, is there a mechanism we can validate the property they're working at? But the homeowner's aware.
So what we would have to do on that form,
The viewpoint,
yeah, is there would have to be multiple people that have to check off that they're aware.
I
Right?
don't know if that's
Yeah.
capable of that,
Well, I
so.
mean, but I think you could do the homeowner. It could be just the homeowner, because it is his house. And they are doing work on his house.
I'll talk to Dylan. Dylan knows the viewpoint software. I'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
But if the board's on board with that, because I want to get this agenda
Yeah,
going here.
To Tom's question, yeah, whatever we do that we can enforce, I'm in.
So I guess it's just a matter of trying to figure out the
And you and I can work on that and
processes that,
put the draft in front of the other members.
I mean, Colleen might have some input in that regard.
Yeah, with some experience in other towns.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, it's- correct.
whatever we do, it just has to be enforced.
Well, that's the thing, which is, right now, our focus of our regulations are really just for the, there is no other enforcement connection, for the property. Yeah, we'll say now in this case here, there is no actual person living in the property, but it is owned by some company. So whoever the owner is, whether living there or
Right.
not, right?
Yep, so we'll talk about that later.
What address is this?
For
I'm not that.
I don't,
48, 38,
40 something, but I'm not sure. It's almost directly across from the library.
32 North Ave. 32 North Ave. It's on the notes.
Across from,
The library.
Almost, well, it's
Yeah,
maybe up,
it's a
maybe up a little
little
bit.
teeny bit, yeah.
Yeah, up a little.
It's on that little street that goes sort of,
okay,
but I personally have seen it.
Yeah.
When I go that way. And I think, geez, they've had that there for us.
If I may, since we have people in the audience for a 5-hour history, we jump the agenda, rearrange the agenda.
I'm good with that. All right, so we're gonna go to 5A Harrington Street. Folks, you may come up and approach the board.
Please just state your name and reason for your visit here.
Alexandre Félix da Silva.
Margaret Santana.
And how are you related to 5 Harrington Street?
I'm the director. New director.
Director of the school?
He's the owner.
He's you, okay.
What happened to the old director?
Oh, he ended up leaving Florida because we opened a school in Florida as well. So yeah.
Okay,
So he's no joke.
Oh.
um,
I'm gonna hand it off to the Vice Chairman Fickner.
Sure, catch me mid-sip.
Sorry.
Well, welcome. Hope all goes well. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I had asked to have this on the agenda. It's kind of a follow-up. I'm not sure if you gentlemen have been kind of looped in to what has been happening with the issues. Okay. You're familiar with, okay. So I just wanted to, first of all, kind of get an idea from the last meeting, if there had been any further communications with, say, our office, Colleen or Jack, with regard to, the property there and the issues that came out in Norfolk. I don't know if there has.
For me personally, no, and Colleen's unavailable for tonight, so I have no update for that from Colleen herself.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay.
Can-
Yeah, go ahead.
just so that I'm clear, you are just part of the school, not part of the property at all. Because the last time we had the property.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to be clear on who's who in the scheme of things. Okay, so you're just part of the school.
So from the last meeting, I know in discussion, talked about the current noises that are being produced from the property. We were very appreciative that the backup alarms on the trucks had been removed. That was great. That had been a major source of the noise issue. But other noises are still at a point of contention for some of the neighbors. The backup alarms, because of their level of noise and consistency, they affected a greater area of that neighborhood for a while because of the way they traveled through. When the alarms were removed, that mitigated a lot of the concerns for percentage of those neighbors that initially had concerns. But there are a couple of properties that immediately abut, I will say, the back of your business. I know there's a separation of a wooded area in between, but the two closest properties there are still, you're still able to hear noise.
Okay, and they contacted you?
Well, I've been in contact with neighbors pretty much regularly.
Okay, so which two neighbors?
Specifically, this is 32 and 34 Crestview.
Okay, so,
And I went to visit their property too, because I wanted to see what was what. And I walked all around there. Nobody was home.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
okay, so you've been in contact with them or they've been in contact with you since our last meeting?
Right.
Okay, so this is new information.
Well, new from the standpoint of, it's been an ongoing issue since September.
Right. Okay,
I'm not
well,
sure.
I thought Colleen had, I mean, unfortunately, she's not here, but I thought Colleen had made the statement that they were able to, hold a conversation while the school was operating.
So, yeah, so correct. There were the two references that came out of that meeting. One was Colleen's mention of a conversation that her and Jack had on the property one day. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
And of course, they were able to have a conversation, which is true. I mean, you can certainly, I hear people talking up on that property all the time while the trucks are moving. So you can certainly have conversations. But the issue here is how the noise is impairing the ability for neighbors to enjoy the peace and quiet of the property. That's really at the core of the issue. It's one thing to have a conversation for a short period of time and then leave the property is no longer the issue. I know Joyce had made reference to a walkthrough that she had done, and had given her view on what she sensed with the noise. I myself in recent days wanted to also go up to the properties and experience what's being heard from the properties. I was there on 3 separate occasions since last Thursday. And what I wanted to do was to gauge what the noise was before the operation started, before the company started operating, and during. And there is definitely a discernible difference when you're in those backyards and the company hasn't yet started up for the day. Once the trucks start up, you hear it. You hear not only the running engines, but you also hear, if I'm using the right term, the braking elements that might get utilized in the course of training. So it's noises that are heard. The question here is whether or not it would rise to the level of being defined as an actual noise nuisance. Noises happen all the time. Anybody else?
Nope, they're all muted.
And of course, there's other noises that you can pick up a little bit from the properties. They get a little bit of the tire traffic of cars that are on 16 and whatnot. But overall, it is pretty quiet from those properties where they are. I know there's an area of woods that does separate the back end of that property from theirs. Of course, now being wintertime, of course, everything's thinned out. There's no foliage on the trees. But just looking at the landscape of that forest area, that wooded area, it's very thin. I would imagine when it's fully grown in, most of the foliage is at the top. There's a clear line of shot. It's wide open from that property coming through the woods. And as was pointed out by one of the residents, the slope of the property kind of coming down. Now, what I noticed is there's a couple of very good, well-designed berm structures that are up there. One is on Harrington Street itself, and the other is on the other end of the property that faces Route 16. And those berms are well established and well structured, so the way they rise up is very high. Nothing like that exists on the back end of the property. There's a lower berm area that's probably about maybe 5 feet. It's like a rock structure that only goes out so far. I don't know how many feet, maybe 30 feet across, 25 feet across. But given the travel that you have, the ability for noise to travel through there, it's just incredibly insufficient to do anything. So when Colleen had mentioned the conversation, Joyce had mentioned the walkthrough, I thought I would also take a listen and see what I thought. So again, I heard a difference between operating time and non-operating time. I will also say I was there again today, and it was a quiet time. I don't know if on a regular basis, from a schedule perspective, if there's like a lunch break where no one's working, say from 11:30 to whatever, that was fairly quiet. Of course, once the trucks start back up again, you definitely hear the noises. It's there. So it really kind of is a question of whether or not it rises to the level of being an actual noise nuisance. And I think if that's the only reference that we have, and I don't know if Jack knows, do we ever actually take any readings, any formal decibel readings for the noise level?
I'm not sure if she did or not.
Okay.
Somewhere along the line, I thought that you said that she did.
She did when they had their backup noises, but after they took them off, she hasn't gone out there for the other noises.
Right.
To my knowledge, she hasn't.
So I believe since we did follow that measurement metric the first time with the backup alarms, I believe we should be doing the same thing, these noises, to try to really determine where it's at with regard to trying to determine if there is a defined noise nuisance. Now, I know that the town of Mendon does not have a sound or noise policy, but the state of Massachusetts does. And they have a formula determining, a benchmark between ambient noise and then any other noises that may come up as well. So my recommendation would be that we look to try to implement some sort of measurement schedule and utilize the DEP, which is a Department of Environmental Protection, use their policy with regard to measurement. And I know Colleen's already had contact with a person there. She kind of worked with an individual previously, and work with them and figure out what the best schedule would be to try to make that determination with their help.
Okay, so you want to send Colleen back out there?
Well, whether Colleen or somebody, or whether that should be in tandem with the person that she works with at DEP.
So
I know that her name is Michelle Delmar for DEP.
That's it.
And she did say to Colleen, I remember seeing an email that she could schedule something to come out. Maybe we could do something before the next board meeting, see if they can come out. I don't know how quickly they can come out, but they have their own equipment that they use for this type of thing.
Okay. Now, I know sometime back, we acquired a device. Again, I don't know if it's at the same level for what DEP uses, but they have their own gear, and if we'd be looking to utilize their policy, it would kind of make sense to use their equipment, but have them come out and utilize it. And the question comes in, what would be considered a reasonable schedule for kind of doing these measurements? Because obviously, what I've heard recently is it sounds like it's a little quieter over there in general. And I don't know if that's because if the class schedule might be reduced, or the driver's getting more experience in the trucks and they're not making the kind of noises that, or if, like it was mentioned that the summertime was extremely loud compared to now. But of course, that's when the backup alarms were in play. So it's hard to gauge that, because they were really in play really up until a month ago.
Yeah.
So it's hard to kind of use that, but you know, there was a wonder whether or not the schedule adjusts so that there are quote unquote quieter times and non-quieter times. But, so I think overall, as a question from our perspective, I would say, does the noise rise to the level of being what would be defined as a noise nuisance? And I think the only way to determine that would be working with getting measurements and, you know,
Okay. So I take it that the homeowners weren't satisfied.
no,
Okay, because the way we had left it was, I believe that, I thought we had kind of resolved what we could resolve. It was said that 65% of the noise had gone away with the backup alarms, but I didn't close the door to revisit it.
correct.
So we're revisiting it now.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it had always been mentioned, as you had alluded to previously, the backup alarm was always, was the biggest part of it, but they had always presented the issue of other noises to us. You had actually held up a document at one of the meetings and kind of pointed that out.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that they're not new complaints, but I wasn't aware that they were ready to come back to us today.
Well, they've never gone away from us. This has been a constant since we started this in September.
Okay.
So it's great and very appreciative that the backup alarm portion has been taken care of. The question is, what could be done beyond that? Now, and again, I know that the property owner was very receptive to trying to help mitigate any future concerns that the residents would have. And I don't know if even a continued conversation there, that's the case, if something additional they might want to put forward there. It just seems like the way the property was protected, the back area of the property wasn't a consideration as far as putting up any kind of well-structured berm. I think probably the thought was that the distance would take care of itself, and that, you know, that hadn't, at least with the alarms, hadn't been the case.
Yeah, well, you know, it went before the planning board approved the site plan.
Well,
what
if you
they built.
recall, there was no site plan review implemented by the planning board. They chose not to do.
Okay,
That's come up in conversation.
okay, well, I overlooked that.
Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, but I will talk to Colleen. I'm assuming she's back in the office tomorrow. See if we can get a game plan going with DEP, get out there and get some measurements and get you the measurements in front of the board.
Yeah, and it's, you know, what kind of schedule? I mean, it's gonna be, I think, what I'm feeling here is there's quieter times and there's noisier times.
Mainly our schedule is from 8 to 4 all day. We don't have like no breaks. Normally one truck they take a break at 12, but it's like one at a time. So the truck will be running all day long.
Right.
From 8 to 4.
Right. And it looks like when I experienced, and I don't know if it's a standard, the days I was up there, you run 3 trucks, and that's pretty much a standard. I imagine that's probably all the room you really have to kind of, you don't want people kind of banging into one another. Right. So 3 trucks typically run as part of their schedule on a daily basis. I would ask as a follow-up, and I'm not sure if you're, you know, included in this conversation, there had been talk about Saturday hours and what may or may not have been able to be done to lessen Saturday. And I know in Colleen's conversation with the previous individual, they were going to look into that. But from what I understand, I think you're still kind of running a full day on Saturday,
It's from 9 to 3.
9 to 3. Okay. So the question came up again, was there any opportunity to lessen that time on a Saturday? Or if you really kind of needed that whole time to kind of do what you do there for training?
Just so I can just break it down a little bit. The students, they have to complete 120 hours in total.
Yeah.
So basically, there's students that they can only come on Saturday because they work every week.
Yeah.
So to complete that, we would need like the whole day. Might take like 1 hour, 2 hours off, but not like the full day. That's something that we can definitely talk about.
Right.
Tom, wasn't the suggestion, or the proposal, put out to us that maybe they could do the driving part in the morning and classroom in the afternoon to
If it-
shorten that
If it
window?
talked about if that was an option to be able to come out somehow structure that so that if there was a way to do that, at least the residents could be aware of a particular time frame when they would expect the noises or not expect the noises, that go a long way to helping the process as well.
That's something that the last director, he changed it, was the air brake thing, because it keeps, it's loud, we know it is, but not like too loud. But that's something that he changed, he does from 8 to 12 only.
Yeah.
And we don't do that in the afternoon normally, but that's like, if you guys come up with something else, I can definitely change that too.
I'm sure Colin will work together with these folks here and Jason, me and the property owner, along with the residents surrounding the property, and try to come up with another solution and compromise and try to mitigate more of these noises.
Yeah, and also, like I said, in the process of that, trying to have actual hard data to kind of go by a subjective conversation. It would be like mine, I'm not the best person to be listening because I know I have some hearing deficit.
Me too.
But if I can discern a difference, imagine what the person with good hearing. But the question is, there may be a difference, but it really comes down to, I think, from our perspective, does it fall into the category of being an actual nuisance? One thing to have noises, but to find something as a nuisance, that's a category, right? Like we did with the alarms, obviously were very prominent. Didn't take much to determine that was an issue. We deal with roosters, back when we handled that one, another issue, that was an issue. So something like this, we have to kind of rise to that level. And the only way we're going to, I think, determine that is to kind of use the policy that DEP has and their measurement, and what the feedback is.
So I'll let Colin work on that.
This could be a case where we're talking about, not something that's going to get resolved in the next month or two, because if there are times when noises are different, we might be talking about a 3, 4, 5 month stretch of different test periods. We want to gather data at different times and then look at it all, together.
Well, we'll see what, DEP representative has to say. I'm sure they'll have some input to that fact.
But if in the interim, if the conversation Colin wants to have again with Jason, if he's still amenable to trying to do something on the back end of that property, that could help. And I know I'm not looking for them to put in a kind of expense, if something's not going to work. Right, whatever they do, I want it to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, just planting some trees there, because we said that would take years. So you'd have to do something, you'd have to build something up with some, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not my area of expertise, but maybe this is where conversations.
Okay, so folks, you'll hear from Colleen. And you'll probably see Colleen and the DEP representative taking some measurements. And we'll see what we come back with initially.
Yeah, so we'll be in touch.
All right.
Appreciate you both coming in.
I appreciate you guys, and it was
Appreciate.
really nice to talk to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
All right, thank you.
Nice to meet you as well.
I see Gene Fichtner in the background there. Gene,
Just
do you have
taking it.
anything you want to add? Okay. Just want to give everybody an opportunity.
Oh, well, you could have come up.
So the truck noise wouldn't bother you.
We would have wanted you.
Thank you.
I'm supporting my husband, that's all.
There you go.
There's somebody in the meeting.
All right. So we're done with that?
Yes.
Now?
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go back to 4B, tobacco regulations, review and discussion.
I'm up on that one again.
You did.
All right, so.
You're our special person today.
That's what I can do.
Thank you.
I'll move up so we can hear.
Okay.
It is kind of
Your board,
somewhat.
but we'll get it.
Just do closer with you.
So with all the previous discussions that we've had with certain violations and so forth that have taken place and come to our attention, in looking at the tobacco regulations, I kind of wondered if we may have some inconsistencies. Part of it has to do with the presentation of violations in our document versus what I saw from a state perspective. And how we have, I think we kind of use the word shall. And in the state's version, they don't do that.
Wasn't that our option?
In,
When we were going through them, we were careful because shall means something very different than may.
that's correct.
Correct.
And at the time we did them, we made a choice. What I'm saying now, after experiencing some situations with tobacco violations, I'm suggesting that we change the verbiage so that we as board members do have an opportunity or an option. With the word shall, we're basically saying there is no option, which actually is a conflict. I don't know, they have a copy of the tobacco regs?
I can pull it up on the.
One here, one right here.
So if you look at pages 8 and 9 would be my focus.
Okay.
So in page 8, section S, they talk about violations.
Yes.
That kind of focuses, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're focusing there on the state.
Let me just share this with the.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we?
Would be page 8.
Section 5.
And S is in Sam.
Looks like 5.
All right.
Looks like
It's
a
not
5.
only the ears, it's the eyes, right?
Right. So when I read through that section seems to be referencing the state's perspective. What they're citing and what we're talking about,
CCMR.
right? And after that initial paragraph description of number 1, it goes into the A, B, and C. A seems to be, we're in agreement there because in the case of a first violation, it's a $1,000 fine.
And it says we're in agreement with the state.
Well, we have to remember here too, is that any local board of health cannot be any less restrictive than the state anyway, right? So it's their guideline there as far as the dollar value that would have to be followed. Because that's their requirement. There's nothing we can do about that. Right?
If I may interrupt, you said that the state says may or shall.
Well, so when it gets to B and C, which are the next two.
Yep.
We have the word shall in those descriptions. And we talk about the monetary amount, which is the state's
States, okay,
monetary amount,
Gotcha.
which we as a local board can't do anything about.
correct.
Okay, so that $2,000 is state.
That's correct. Yeah. The second part of that talks about, and the tobacco product sales permit shall be suspended for 7 consecutive business days. That differs from CMR verbiage. They actually make reference to it may, and they defer to what the locals say.
So they defer to what the locals say.
Right.
Then when they read our regulations, we spell it out.
Well, we say shall,
Do.
we do.
We have that option.
Well, it's not an option by saying shall.
Okay,
That's my point.
We voted to use the word shall.
That's correct. Right. So what I'm saying to you now is after going through this exercise a few times, my view is that we should change it. That's my view.
Mhm.
That's what I'm
Because
presenting.
may is a little more, you have a little more.
Well, May then says, well, now it's up to the discretion. The monetary amount, there's nothing we could do anything about. That's at the state. So that is a given.
Right, so we can't be less.
It can't be less than that. However, because the state CMR outline of violations doesn't say shall, they kind of defer back to what the locals are saying, and they have the word may. What we're doing here right now is we're being more restrictive in this particular category than the state,
Which we have the right to do.
which we have the right to do. So if that is the viewpoint of the board, that you'd like to keep that, that's fine. What I wanted to bring up was my viewpoint that from my perspective, I believe we should change that to may. Oh, and also because,
So we have the.
well, so that, see, by saying shall, when you read that and you say shall, you'd say there's no option.
You just have to do it.
However, if you look
That
over,
was the original intent.
however, if you look on page 9
Mhm.
and you go down to number 6, that whole paragraph kind of talks about the opportunity for someone to come before the board to be heard.
Mhm.
And then it says, after a hearing, the Mendon Board of Health,
Shall suspend or revoke?
shall suspend or revoke the tobacco product sales permit if the Board of Health finds that a violation of this regulation occurred. What's kind of interesting is that we're given an opportunity for someone to be heard.
Mhm.
So you think from that, it's an opportunity for the board to consider what the person in front of us is telling us. But if we've already kind of said shall in the violation area,
Yeah.
it actually wouldn't matter what they told us
Yeah.
because we appreciate you being here, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But so by changing the verbiage back to may, it kind of actually matches that opportunity as well to hear somebody's viewpoint and to let the board have a consideration of some possibility based on what we're hearing.
Okay, so you're saying that the shall is so definitive
Right.
that the out we gave them.
Right.
Or the opportunity we gave them to appeal.
Right.
Doesn't really exist.
It almost makes it's a conflict. Because you have shall on one side, but you're presenting an opportunity over here. It's a conflict. Why would we do that?
I think and I'm trying to remember back.
Right.
It was a few years ago. Just like we do with the health agent is the enforcer. We've always been taught that.
Yep, yep.
And that gives the violator the ability to come before the board and appeal.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but I think that was the intent.
Which is still good. You still want to have our health agent follow what they believe they should follow. But it's at the board level, if the person feels agrees in some way or feels there should be some consideration, that they can always appeal it to the board.
So someone has a violation like we recently had, they get fined with $2,000. That's their second violation within 36.
That's correct.
We go further and say that their license is going to be suspended for 7 days. We go further than the state.
Well, that's what we're doing now.
Right.
Okay.
We use our discretion as to when we work with the licensee. We use our discretion as to when that is gonna happen,
We have.
okay? So within that discretionary time period, they have the right to come back and appeal. We gave them that option.
Well, we've given the option to appeal.
Right.
Right. But
So-
what good is the appeal option if we're saying over here, it's gonna get suspended? They're appealing what the board is laying on them as far as fine and or quote unquote suspension. But if we told them you shall be suspended, wouldn't matter what they came and told us, because in our regulations, we're saying,
Now, is that, is
but over here, we're kind of telling them, hey, you have an opportunity to come. The board will hear your appeal, and there may be an opportunity to not go beyond the monetary fine. So I see this as a conflict of presentation in our own document.
In number 6, correct?
Yeah, in number 6.
Yes.
We talk about that.
And I agree, because reading this, they're saying, yes, come before the board, but regardless of what you say,
it doesn't
the Board of
matter.
Health's gonna revoke you or suspend you regardless of what you say, because of that word shall right there.
Is shall so definitive
Right,
without, without that paragraph?
Well, yeah, the
Where
word,
we have that.
we have the paragraph over here that kind of makes it look like there's an out, but over here, we're telling them, no, you don't.
So in number 6, we should change the word shall to may suspend after hearing them out.
And to be consistent in
you have to go over
B
here.
and C,
Right.
the word shall should be changed to may as well,
Right,
to be consistent
right.
in the process.
So
That's
B
what I had on
and C.
thing here.
Nope, you're in wrong one.
No,
Yeah.
Number 9.
yeah, number 9's over here,
Yeah. So it's that word shall
right?
that we want to change to may. Because they're coming in,
No.
Yes,
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 Oh, okay.
both sides.
We want to change it on both sides.
Correct.
Okay, so after a hearing, the Board of Health shall suspend or revoke.
so why bother coming in if they're gonna, you guys are gonna,
See, that makes more sense.
Right.
Okay,
And it's on both sides. It's on this side too.
Okay.
Like A.
yep.
See,
I know we discussed the word shall.
We did, and I totally agree with
Quite
that.
a,
That's what we
quite
should.
late to make sure that we,
and Karis was the one that says she prefers it to be in the regulations.
Right. And
But in this case, it kind of contradicts itself, like Tom said.
well, so, and because the time, we're looking at it from a regulation perspective, we had no real live cases
Correct.
that ever really came before us that presented situations. And it's because of the recent situations that were presented, just kind of had me looking closer, and then also seeing what is in the CMR of the state. My preference would be, although we can be more restrictive than the state, which is what this does, if that's the decision. But my personal preference would be not to be any more restrictive unless there was some overwhelming reason why we had to be. I'd be as equal to the state, but be consistent with the opportunity for some flexibility, right? That's kind of why I'm coming
I
at
can
it.
see that.
yep, I agree. Because it really is, it doesn't make sense that you have all these things and you say, oh, well, you can come in and talk to us and but too bad, we are gonna say, you're out of here. So, yeah, I agree, absolutely. We shall do it.
That's it.
We shall do it. We shall change.
We shall overcome.
So we make sure.
You make a motion.
Well, Alan's thinking.
Alan's thinking.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
he's pondering.
Let's just take B for example.
Okay,
Second offense in 36, it's automatic 2,000. Shall be issued.
What page are we on?
We're on
Right,
page
page
8B,
Right.
section SB. So the 2,000,
Shall be issued.
Shall be issued.
Correct.
okay, and the permit may be suspended. So at that time, we make the decision to suspend. Let's just say, because we have the word may there,
Yeah,
Right.
but we decide at that time, because may gives us both options.
Right.
oh, for sure.
So we decide to suspend.
Okay,
Then the person moves over here to 6 at the bottom of page 9 and says, I'm going to appeal.
right,
So they appeal. After a hearing, we're saying that the board may still suspend or not suspend your license.
that's correct.
Okay.
Because they're gonna be, what would have to happen is they'd have to be notified and then informed what they'd be facing. And then based on this, we tell them they need to respond within 7 days.
7 days.
Read that? So they had to respond indicating, I wish to appeal this. Then we set up a hearing date. Then we hear from the individuals. And then from that, a determination is made. Not that it has to be made that evening. It could still be taken into consideration, but ultimately a decision would be made. And then we would have to then give notification as to what the decision of the board was.
I just wanted to make sure I could visualize the flow
Right.
using, changing the word. Like I said, I wish I could remember back to some of the conversations we had,
Right.
but it was that long ago.
It was quite a while ago. It was,
And it was a new document. We had no regulations prior to,
that's right. Yeah. And we were using what we felt.
Right,
at the time
2015.
was our best,
yeah, so
our
it was
best judgment.
10 years ago,
Yeah.
more than 10.
And, with input from town council as part of that. But then not having we had no real life experiences that we went through. And it's only because of the real life experiences in recent time that just had me kind of rethinking and then looking and seeing, it seems like we have a bit of a conflict here. Not only that, but I believe that what the state currently provides is a good guideline. And I personally would not want to be, like I said, unless we really had a need to, for some reason, I wouldn't want to be more restrictive.
Right.
Some communities have to be take more restrictive action than the state says because of something that's happening in their community that they got to address. So they got to really do something more. My view in this particular case, these circumstances, I don't believe we need to be more restrictive. And if anything, it equals what the state already says in their CMR about deferring, about the local board may or may, depending on what's in place.
As far as
Right,
license.
right. So even they say, they kind of go to that may, but because we define the shall here, but we kind of given an opportunity over here, it's like, okay, which is,
Yeah, like I said, I'm thinking back that because they have that delay of the suspension, because we work with them as to when that suspension is going to take place.
Yeah.
That they have that option to appeal. However, reading it over here, if you have a hearing and it's going to be
Right.
suspended anyway,
Right.
other than getting the opportunity to speak your piece again, which they've only going to repeat what they already, told us, they're still going to lose their license.
well, the hearing is the only time when they're coming before the board. Other than that, prior to that timeframe, they don't appear
But
before
we've
us.
had people come before us from tobacco sales the night we're giving them a violation.
Well, not that we were giving them a violation, that was their hearing now.
They get their violation And they have 6 days.
This would be a separate hearing.
No, they get the violation, like before this even touches play,
They get written up
they get written up.
that day.
Yep, you got 7 days to come to us and say you wanna fight it. Then you guys discuss between them.
But if they only get 7 days, we meet every 2 weeks, how does that work?
You don't decide on it until I put it on the agenda.
That could be 30 days from.
If I reference the DB Mart, this is how the process worked with DB Mart. Wrote them up, gave them citation, they came back, wanna talk to the board.
Right.
I'll put you on the next available agenda. You guys hear about it the first time on the agenda.
Okay, so they respond to you within 7 days,
Correct.
saying that they have the intent to have a hearing.
Correct.
Okay, I'm a little slow tonight.
No, it's the back end of the process.
He's a lefty.
It's the back end of the process that works, that the board doesn't see until.
Right. Okay, no, I would like to hear from Pauline on this before we take a vote.
Yeah, it's
To
just,
get her input.
I just wanted to bring it up as a discussion point.
Yeah, no,
We didn't have to pull the trigger by any means tonight. You know?
I can't believe it was 2015. I've been on the board long, I think.
Yeah.
And Tom's been on forever.
You're just a
And
kid.
Joyce keeps coming back.
And of course, the other, point out, just another variable here on page 9, a little further up the page. Number 2. So that area kind of goes toward the local violations in the town, right? Because we have in our document, which has been a little confusing, we cite not only the state violations, but we within our own document have some local things that the state may not have. But in our particular breakdown of violations for A, B, and C, we have a monetary value that we've assessed, right? As long as it doesn't conflict with the state, this monetary schedule works because we're not citing a number that's less than what the state has, because this would pertain to something local for the town of Mendon,
Correct.
right? But in B and C, we've also kind of used that shall word again.
Yeah.
So to be consistent in the process, my view would be that those areas should get modified, the verbiage to may, to the word may instead of shall.
So we should all change shall to may.
That's right. We may do that.
Let Colleen know about that.
We have fun here at the Board of Health.
Okay. Tom, once again, you have very good command from English language. Anything else that you picked up on?
Well, those are the only areas that I thought we had a conflict in. I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't reviewed the whole thing. I thought we structured it very well when we did it. We were pretty thorough. It took a long time to put this together. I do remember that. So we were, I think we were pretty, I think we gave it a lot of thought.
Yeah, we had some pretty good advice from people that had done it.
Yeah.
But at that time, I think we were, as far as like the age of 21, something like that.
Right.
Lowered it to 18.
Right.
Raised it to 21 to be able to buy.
Yep.
Were only a handful of towns in the state at that time.
Right.
AJ was very passionate about getting these regulations set up.
Right.
But it looks like we haven't touched them since, it's been 2 years since we touched them, so it's time to touch them anyway.
Yeah, the last change we made had to do with that permit situation. We made a modification to effect January 1, 2020. Right, just about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think they still hold merit.
Well, and we had discussed, I can't remember when it was that, to visit these things on almost a different regulation on a quarterly basis so that we're kind of keeping them up to date and fresh.
Oh, yeah.
So if, 1 quarter you do tobacco, 1 quarter you do dumpster, 1 quarter you do housing or, restaurants or whatever, not overwhelmed all at once,
Correct.
trying to keep everything and we have time to think about it. No, very good, Tom. Thank you. Joyce, anything else you want to add to that or we'll,
No, I agree.
so we'll wait for
Correct.
Yeah.
Colleen's take?
Yeah.
Maybe revisit, we meet again probably next year.
Mhm.
I wouldn't imagine we're gonna do a meeting again this year. It's Christmas week.
That's right.
Oh, we're not gonna do it on Christmas Day?
Want to do a Christmas Eve? What do you think? Board of Health meeting on Christmas Eve?
Jean's in.
If I have stuff.
Yeah. All right, very good.
Eggnog, all around.
All right, so it looks like if we're done with that, we're gonna move on to 5B,
Correct.
143, 145 Hartford Ave East, tobacco permit discussion.
All right, from the last Board of Health meeting on November 13th, the board wanted more time to think about either allowing or denying the tobacco permit for 143, 145 Hartford Avenue East. As you can see from the, let's see if I can do this.
Yeah.
The property is right next to Save Run, who has a tobacco permit, and across the street from Sunny Farms and Liquor World also have tobacco permits. And with our tobacco regulations, they cannot be within 1,000 feet of one another.
Well, I want to give the opportunity to kind of think about it from my perspective. Straight out, I'm not inclined to. alter.
So you're sticking with the regulation at this point.
Yeah, that particular area of regulation was one that we specifically was modified and had specifics to it. So I personally would not be inclined to want to step away from that. It's unfortunate that the property owner got caught up in situations, but it was outlined for a specific reason. Additionally, to be quite honest personally, I don't know if that location needs another tobacco. To be quite honest, whether or not there's any consideration for a different type of business or not. But you look around there and what's there already. But for me, it's the regulatory aspect of it that I am keying in on, and I would not be in favor of deviating from that.
And I, being on a health perspective, as the nurse that knows that smoking is terrible, I don't agree with them selling cigarettes anyway. But again, we have a rule, and that rule says that it has to be within a certain perimeter. Then that's the rule. And I feel like that's important. But again, I have to be truthful that I don't think anybody should be smoking. It's killing people left, right, and center. So, but we have a rule,
Okay.
and that's why we have it. We have to follow it.
Mr. Chairman?
Are they looking for a commitment?
They came in obviously on November 13th, explaining their story, but the board wanted more time to think about what went on, what transpired throughout the years and stuff like that. And what's regard to our regulations, so you guys didn't make a decision.
I thought they were kind of taking our temperature because they haven't even put anything before the planning.
Correct.
Well, they didn't want to take the extra steps like applications. And so forth. And if the board was not inclined to deviate from the current regulation, it wouldn't make sense for them to go through the extra effort, the extra expense, and all that would go along with that.
I have to say, I'm very surprised that the tobacco part of that business is that important, because we had a licensee before us for a different issue, who came right out and said they would rather sell $20,000 worth of fuel
Correct.
than the cigarettes.
Right.
So
As far
that
as a
leads me to
percentage of their
believe
revenue.
that it's a very small pot, and we've had discussions before. There are cities in the state that tobacco is gonna age out. So, we're well aware that tobacco is a dying industry. It's been on the decline, it's gonna continue to decline, so not being in the business that they're in, buying land, speculating, knowing that, what the best use is, and then, you have to have the whole package to get a leasee. I'm kind of stumped. That would be a deciding factor as to whether or not you locate a gas station convenience store there. Because that's such a,
Well, they could still do the convenience store, it would just
I
be
agree,
tobacco-less.
Right.
I just think they wanted to
You
get
could
an
do, they
idea.
could do something like sandwiches and stuff like that kind of thing.
Right.
right, but it was presented to us
Inverse.
before by the neighbor that, they wants, someone wants to come in, a customer wants to come in and get gas, get a sandwich, get their smokes, get their morning coffee. That's part of that package
Right.
for that particular industry.
Right.
I would be very inclined to stick with the regulation. We did that intentionally, and we discussed it in great length.
And the specific element about that was, we always had the distance element, and the variable at the time was who would be affected and who was intended to be affected by it. And what was added to that element was based on a plan being submitted to the planning board and to the town of Mendon. And that was the added piece that was part of that, those paragraphs, not only just proximity of other tobacco permit holders, but when it was submitted.
Right.
If their plan, they had a plan in place, we might not be having this conversation.
Incorrect. Prior to the effective date.
Right. Prior to January 1, 2024. Because we had that was part of the conversation with other places that are looking to build what might be in the pipeline. And we were well aware if there were other situations in the pipeline prior to January 1, 2024, they would not be affected by that component. The proximity thing is still discussable item because we're saying you have to be so many feet.
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet?
Mhm.
That could still weigh. That hadn't always been.
Get to take a vote.
Well, the board is inclined just to stick with the regulations. I can let them know tomorrow, say the board,
Is inclined to stick with the,
stick with the regulations.
Right.
that's, if they want our temperature, that's,
Yeah,
that one is saying.
yeah.
So I take a vote to decline they never even applied for a permit, so I don't know.
Right.
No, and they weren't going to. I think they wanted to first see where we were at.
All right.
So I'll just tell them that the board, all three members are unanimous not to.
Yeah, what was the word the attorney used? That they were looking for?
Yes.
He wasn't looking for a variance, he was looking for the board. Another word for inspection. Yeah, maybe it was a waiver.
I think it was waiver of the regulations, yeah.
That's what it would have been.
Right.
We would
have to
be-
do that.
Yeah,
Only a
to
waiver.
respond to them, we're not going to waiver
All right,
the regulations, right?
That's my, that's what.
I will let them know. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Gonna move on to Board of Health admin updates, senior discount application finalization.
All right, so I want to thank Vice Chairman Fickner for recognizing the language for this. Number 7 has been added to the senior discount application. Number 7 is now says the total number of residents in the home who are adults, which is 18 plus years old, cannot exceed 4. So that has now been added to the senior discount application for trash recycling curbside services.
So what we're seeing here, I think it has the word adult behind it, eliminated that, right?
Adults.
We've eliminated the word adults though.
No, I see 4 adults. Well, I say adults 18 plus.
Well, this
Actually,
document in front of us says not exceed 4.
No, I see 4. I'm sorry, I got the wrong PDF file.
I just want to make sure folks are listening or,
No, I got the wrong PDF file. My fault.
no worries, no worries. It's kind of what came out of that, was, when it was first being introduced, it was realized that it didn't seem to match with what our intent was when we made the decisions we made for the document. And we determined we did want to, there was a desire to limit. And we came up with the number 4 for limit. How it was originally going to flow was there was some, it was pointed out that verbiage would actually not do what we actually intended to do. This kind of,
Yeah, so for those looking at home on the screen, number 7 will read, the total number of individuals living in the home cannot exceed 4. That's what number 7 will read.
correct, yeah.
I think in our discussion, trying to allow for those different scenarios that crop up temporarily.
Correct.
A senior that needs a child, an adult child to move back in with them to help give them some care, or a young couple that, needs to save some money for a year so they can put a down payment on a house. Those fluctuations, we didn't want those fluctuations to penalize the senior that owned the home.
Right.
From getting the discount. So we probably almost went too far.
Well, the variable there was, I think if, as the wording was seen, it would have actually allowed, say, a son or daughter to come home for whatever reason, or needed to be back home. But could have then brought a family with them, children. And now it's like you're got a family of potentially
6 feet.
yeah,
Yeah.
because now you got, okay, we may have limited to 4 adults, but what about the 5 kids they brought with them? And like, it was realized, okay, that was not our intent. It was to limit. We thought 4 was a number at least to start with. Who knows what we do next year?
Right.
We could find that economics into play again. Even though the survey seemed to indicate overwhelmingly people like it, don't touch it. And the only desire from that survey was, and it was actually close to 50%, a little bit over 50%, thought there should be a limit. And so we kind of catered or went with that survey and then decided on the 4 for the limit. But we may find economically, as things go along here, that this could become more of a burden to the non-senior subscriber. And then we may find ourselves in another discussion about a possible adjustment. We'd have to play that one as that's all.
Yeah, I think I was the one that brought up the 18 or older as being an adult. And that didn't really work. There was no need to define it because we were talking about the number of people in the house.
Correct.
So that will be going on with the census.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. I think mid-January is when the census is to be mailed out.
I thought it was going out this month, because I thought it had
No,
about,
January, we had to give it to her this month, by the end of this month, beginning of this month. But she said she had to send it out this month to get it all set and squared away. It mails out in the middle of January.
it'll be in January.
Correct.
Then we asked, the other thing we did here to be in line with that census, if you look at number 1 in that form, the census has a requirement of being returned. When I say requirement, it's a strong ask. to have people return that within 10 days, right? So Jack kind of made a modification and include that same statement in with this as well. Stay in line with that. It doesn't mean if we've had it happen.
Yeah, I'll still accept them when I get them, but again, the point is, well, if the census comes in June, I'll accept the senior discount in June. Because the new bills haven't been done yet.
We're just asking folks to kind of respond in that time frame because it does make it a lot easier for the administration aspect of the programs, not only from our perspective, but from our town clerk's perspective. And gathering the data they need to gather, because the data she gathers has more of an effect on the town as a whole. We have one particular program here, but the numbers that those documents really reflect the kind of support that we could see financially from the state, right?
Correct.
So
Yep.
very important to get those census back and in the hands so they can be processed, the data can get to the state. You know, we can hope the town of Mendon then gets the, say reap is the right word, but gets the reward,
It's supposed to.
should get the funding,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, based on that information, correct.
Yep.
So,
That's all I have for that.
All right. Moving on, Mendon Old Landfill update.
All right, so the 3 new wells for the Mendon Old landfill will begin tomorrow morning.
Excellent.
Rain or not?
Rain or not, they will be there tomorrow morning. Atlas will be on site. Greg Ruth from DEP will be there tomorrow morning, just to take a look.
Mhm.
All right,
Everything's on schedule. No issues.
great.
So that's all I have for that.
and then we had any recent conversations, do we know, with Mr. McQuaid? No, we were given, we had the last date we're aware of, starting at the end of this year.
Correct.
So I guess would we still be on track? Or
We're still on track, yes.
I just didn't know if we need to.
Yeah, actually, I talked to Greg Root, Jennifer Snee, and Nathan Baru from Atlas today, because we were talking about tomorrow's event. And Jennifer said we're on track to take the well samplings of the new wells to submit the report by the end of the year, so.
And actually, as I think about it, just dawned on me when you mentioned Greg. Greg works like that, Jim. Sorry, so Greg's in the loop. That's just as good.
Yeah.
Homeowner, I'm sure is aware.
Sylvia Marnick is away, yes.
Yeah, she's been very good.
Yep.
As she should. Not there.
Good communication.
Having been together.
Yes, yes. Okay, nothing else on that. We'll move on. You're gonna cover health agent up.
I do have some updates for, on behalf of Colleen.
106 Millville Street, please.
All right, so 106 Millville Street, the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture and the MSPCA have arrived at 106 Millville Street this past Monday. They have collected all remaining animals that were on the property. Those included the 4 horses, all the goats, the 2 cows, and the dogs.
Really?
All animals on that property have now been removed as of Monday.
And they're not,
The MSPCA is in charge.
yeah.
They let the animal owners know that they have the animals and what they need to do to qualify. They will be having court cases that they are appearing in next week. But as far as I know, all animals now are off the property in the possession of the MSPCA.
Property owner is securing the property.
I don't know if the property owner is securing the property, but the property owner is aware by his counsel. The Board of Health did condemn the property last week.
Yeah.
So the notice has been posted. The property owner is aware of it. So what the property owner is doing
Okay,
with the property, that would be.
I know that was said at one point. that
Right.
As soon as they were gone, the property owner was going to lock that place up tight,
Correct.
especially with these people.
But the animals are gone.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
24 Kinsley Lane.
All right, 24 Kingsley Lane. If you remember, Colleen said that we were looking for a deed restriction for that property. Yes, now it is a tight tank. And the board needed to approve the tight tank approval process that include the deed restriction, how much gets pumped. That has been submitted by his town council, so that is all squared away. All right.
So just curious, just going back to Millville's speech for just a quick second. Do we know the status of the previous occupants?
They are still around. Colleen talks to them on a daily basis.
Okay.
But where they are living, I am not too sure.
So as far as we understand it, they are off that property.
They are off that property, correct?
I have a question about that though.
If you could please come up and state your name and your address.
Hi, my name's Jeannie Fichter. I live on 16 Emerson Street in Mendon. I believe there's still occupants there because I still see the car there. They have a Cadillac Seville or whatever.
Is that the old style car?
The
Is
what?
it blue? Yes, that car is not functioning, so that's why it's still on the property. And Ernie Horn, who's the town council for the property owner, allows it to remain on the property. But that car is allowed to be on the property.
Right.
But I do see barn doors open and I see lights on there.
But there's no animals in
There's
it.
no animals as of Monday. MSPCA has them all.
Okay,
They're all safe and
secured.
secure and in another place.
Do we know where they ended up, the facility they did go to?
They did not.
Okay. Curious.
It's not my barn.
If you see anything in your travels, let us know. No, really, I mean, I don't go by there on a regular basis.
Yeah, no,
It's usually when something would come up here that I'd kind of make a mental note that I should drive by and just see what it looks like.
right.
And unfortunately, that property became a problem, so we rely on people kind of feeding us some information on what they see. So that we, we're not, even when the health agent visits, they don't visit on a daily basis because there's other business to take care of. So thank you very much, Gene.
That's all I have for that.
All right. Food and housing inspection update.
Again, the only housing inspection she did was only on the one property to condemn the property. Again, the reason why the Board of Health condemned the property was there was no heat. That's the only reason why that property was condemned. For the food inspections, we are getting applications in left and right because it is December, so they're
Yeah.
trying to get their 2026
Right.
permits in. So those are coming in steady, and her inspections are still ongoing.
Where do we send those, we send out packets to all the people
That went out in October, end of
in
October.
October, so we're still following that
Yeah.
timeframe. So we're getting into them plenty of time.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we kept trying to give them a more reasonable amount of time,
Right.
because Thanksgiving, Christmas is crunch time for a lot of those places.
And that had
So-
been mentioned to us as a basis for how they get so caught up around the holiday season. And that's what generated us to start sometime back, is getting them out in October, which is a good move for us to do. Yeah.
Very good.
Good.
All right.
That's all I have.
All right, topics not anticipated within 48 hours.
I have none.
Done there.
On the good and welfare for the board.
Only one that I came across. She may have gotten an email on, from the Department of Public Health. Came to us actually yesterday. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health today issued a safety alert urging employers in the stone countertop fabrication industry to protect workers from silica dust exposure following the first confirmed case of silicosis among this workforce in Massachusetts.
Very easy to have.
Yeah.
And I thought it was in the United States, so
Yeah.
I'm glad you clarified.
The folks to be aware of.
Yeah, you don't, being in that industry, in the beginning years, you don't realize what you're breathing.
Right.
Now, a lot of times, the saws that are used have to, for a long time, you had to be wet cutting versus dry cutting. Now they actually have vacuums that attach to select everything. But, you know, like anything else, sometimes you don't initially realize the danger you're putting yourself in.
I think they should always wear a mask anyway. My opinion.
When I first started cutting, face shield.
Yeah.
I'm sure the majority
And was, all it was available was dry cutting.
But, you know, can't fix stupid.
Well, they keep making advancements.
Right.
Like I said, now they have some pretty neat portable vac systems to collect all that, but I myself started off dry cutting what was available.
Right.
It wasn't even a diamond blade. That's how long ago it was. It was an abrasive blade on top of it.
Yeah.
You know, then you got a diamond blade, then you got a solid diamond blade that could wet cut.
Says here, the,
Back in the day.
Yeah,
Is that back in the day?
it was.
That's what I.
it says silicosis is a preventable, but yet incurable and progressive lung disease caused by inhaling what they say is a crystalline silica. So it's something, you know, people take the precautions that you say, but yet if they acquire it, it doesn't seem to be a great thing to.
Yeah.
And you can't get rid of it.
Hmm.
All right,
That's all I have.
Joyce, anything good and welfare for the board?
Oh.
And I'm good too. Tom heard the same thing I got, but more accurately. Jack, anything?
Just a couple of things. Household hazardous waste day has been scheduled.
Hey,
Yep.
That is gonna be on August 29th. That's the closest I can get to September with the LRVB in there and Clean Harbors. So that's gonna be on August 29th, and I am working with Misco to have it at the Misco school.
Oh, and that worked out all right for last time, right?
Well, this is the first time we'll be having household hazardous waste at the Misco school.
it's always been down the highway, but
Oh, I was thinking that, what did we?
That one's gonna be the sustainability event. That's on June 27th, the Green Team Electronics Sustainability Event. That's scheduled for June 27th. So you guys get your new 2026 calendar.
That's very.
Yeah.
nice. Thank
So
you.
at the bottom, you'll see June 27th and August 29th, those two town events.
Here I am trying to scribble it down and you already did it.
It's on your handy dandy 2026 calendar.
He's so good, isn't he?
yeah.
Don't have to Get a reservation.
Saturday. When does school start up?
The school start up.
Yeah, is it in
August
that
20.
week, August 26th, maybe?
Oh,
Starts up before September 1.
Yes.
It's Labor Day. Labor Day this coming year would be what, that 7th?
Yes.
So maybe they don't start up until the 2nd,
That's possible.
which is just curious as to where that,
Wouldn't be a bad question to ask. When the school start up there.
Well, the property's it's already marked off for us. I talked to Kim Lauder from Misco. It's ours.
Oh, yes, okay.
it's out, it's out.
It's ours, yes. Yeah. So if you remember where the Green Team event is on the right-hand side, if you're looking at the school on the right-hand side, that parking lot plus the parking lot up in the back. So the whole entire right side of the school will be the event.
Okay. And Neil Harvey's on board? Okay.
Speaking of EL Harvey, Mike said he'll be here for the second meeting in January. Because I know you wanted him here.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of talk with him. He's always been a great source. I was curious as to what direction the trash industry is heading in.
Well, this is the
We have
last of our
contracts.
extension year. It's up for renewal this coming July.
Oh,
Will be our first extension this July.
no,
Oh,
No?
I don't think so. I thought we were already well into.
I didn't think it was our last. I thought maybe it was our second extension,
Oh, maybe.
because we have three.
Two
A
extensions.
3-year contract with a 2-year option.
Yeah, so we have two.
And I thought we were already into our second year option. Could be wrong, but
She's like, okay, wrong.
Yeah, because we need time.
well, I said to my, I was thinking, yeah, it would be a good time to start conversing. But so you're thinking we got one more extension?
Yeah,
Okay.
but verify that,
Yes, I will verify that tomorrow.
because as we've talked in the past, it takes a while to get RFP out there, right?
Correct.
If that's the route that we would choose to take, to look at
It's
Went out to
possible.
see who else.
Well, I did get an email from Republic saying that they're interested in us.
So they must know where we're at.
They do have a copy of the contract.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm wondering,
yeah, that
are
would
we actually in
That
our
gives us some-
second, are we actually approaching the end of the second?
extension. I mean, we haven't had to do it, but doesn't it take almost a year?
That's what I'm saying. I think this is our first extension because we haven't had the TOTUS for that long.
Not that it takes that long, it's just that in the past, we've let it go that long. Be honest with you,
Well,
we can expedite it if we put our collective minds to it. That,
okay, well, that was kind of my, introduction into getting Mike's temp on
Yep.
the trash industry.
Right.
Again, he's always given us some reasonable advice.
Right.
He seems to have his, finger on the pulse, a lot of experience.
Yeah.
But the contract isn't gonna go forever. So regardless of where we are.
Right.
We need to make that decision. And the trucking portion of that contract has gotten quite expensive.
Sure.
Not that it would be any cheaper anywhere else.
Right.
But what we've pay as users
Right.
is increasing.
The other part of that conversation could also entail, would there be consideration to alter the program? Beyond just talking about the possibility of seeking other vendors, alter the program. Such as, yes,
Don't scare me. We're gonna be going on to our first extension in 2026.
Thank you.
okay, going on to our first year extension.
First year extension, correct. So we have time. But
Good.
we should start an RFP process if that's gonna be the way we're gonna go.
Good call.
Okay. No, but as always, we're trying to do
That's right.
what's best for the subscribers.
Right.
So it's been a while since we talked to Mike.
Right.
I considered that the first step to where we go from here.
Yep.
Because just because we have the extensions doesn't mean we're gonna use them.
This is correct. We know what's in front of us, because that's defined. Both those years are defined.
Mhm.
But we could decide that we want to look at options.
Mhm.
And one of the things I think of when I was referring to altering the program, whether or not a pay-as-you-throw viable option.
I haven't heard anything good about it,
I haven't heard anything good about it either.
but that doesn't mean it's not, wouldn't be good for us.
Well, yes, and also too, just from a discussion standpoint, for the public's benefit, to present potential pros, but also I'm aware there are the cons to the program as well. But so that we're having that discussion, so that for the public's benefit, the board is looking at, as opposed to just, I wouldn't want folks to assume that we're quote unquote rubber stamping.
Mhm.
All right, we've been very, very fortunate, I think, with the program that we've implemented over the years. We have a very good relationship. And the vendor we chose, E.L. Hardy, has been very good.
Not to mention that, Ron,
And Phil, oh, absolutely.
which is huge.
Mike, our representative, Phil, our driver. The whole, it worked very well. Yes, costs go up, we know that, but we have done comparisons in the past. And we know what other options, people were to go privately. I believe it's still more expensive. People were to get their own vendor. I believe that's still more than our program.
Well, we sort of have, I'll call it a pay as you throw. It's just that our pay as you throw has a minimum. Because if you want to throw additional, you have to get stickers. So we do have some control over how much gets put at the curb. And a lot of times, my understanding is the pay as you throw program was to try to reel in how much trash people were throwing. Milford was out of control before they went to the TOTA program.
Yeah.
I haven't had any discussions with anybody in Milford to see if that is kind of reeled in, because people were throwing everything.
Well, one of the discussion points that I've heard brought up was when people compare the amount of trash they put out versus another family, right? And, you know, we just referred to the seniors as a group that typically are putting out less. And, but if you have, you know, it's one of the reasons why we offer the discount program that we offer. But in comparison, you know, does the pay as you throw help? The cost variances of the cost application. So if somebody's throwing out more trash, they're purchasing more bags versus the person that doesn't is purchasing less bags. So they have control of that cost. Yes, the service itself still has to be paid for. Right, we're just talking about the pay as you throw. I think you still have to have a base cost for the service that has to be applied to everything.
Right, and, you know, you have to have people to distribute the bags, people to collect the money.
There you go.
So administering it
The administration end up.
may be more work.
Right.
Regardless of who our caller is,
Right.
we have a contract with someone like Wheelabrae, right? That could change.
Yeah, when's that coming up for,
We're still in negotiations.
and when is it due to end?
2027, year 2027.
So that's a portion of our cost is the actual trash disposal
Yeah.
versus the trash hauling.
Correct.
The totas seem to be working well. People have seemed to adapt to the new process.
Yeah.
They seem to be holding the trash well when I drive down the street.
Yeah.
I still see a few that are overflowing, but they seem to stand up to the wind pretty
Yeah.
good. As long as someone makes sure that the lid is closed, things seem to be staying where they are, which is, you know, helpful.
Mhm.
All right, so we can save this topic when Mike's here.
We can,
Right, yeah. I mean, we put trash out like every other week.
Mhm.
Because.
Oh, bro, a lot of people do that.
It's the two of us, even with my studio, with the, you know, the stuff in the studio and stuff like that, still.
Megan, I see that you are still online with us. Would you like here to say anything about tonight's meeting? I'll take that as a no.
I do have a question again. It's me, Jeannie Fickner, 16
Sure.
Emerson Street. I know in the past that we used to have a rabies clinic in town that would be down at the highway barn every year. Is there any consideration for doing that again?
That'd be the animal control officer, and that's not our purview.
Well, years ago, prior to when Jack came on, we did have oversight. We worked with the local veterinarian in town, the Mendon Animal Clinic. And at the time, it's under different ownership now. But at the time, what they would do was they would come down, vet, and they would set up down at the highway barn. And you could bring in your animals for rabies. And we, the Board of Health, did have interaction. We did have, I won't say control, but it did, we were involved very deeply with that program.
So they would do cats like from 9 to 11, and they would do dogs from like 12 to 3 or something like that is how they would do it.
what time of year? In the spring, summer?
It was like in April or it was just in the spring, I believe. But there were a lot of people who would go down there that would do that. And I think a lot of people maybe have cats that they don't go to the vet with, that they would bring down and get their rabies shots. And I don't know why,
Take it under advisement?
but I don't know why it stopped is all.
So it's a good point. It's something that we did for a few years,
Oh.
for a while.
Why don't we bring it up to Colin?
Well, should it be mentioned to Kevin Sullivan, the animal control
Well,
officer?
I'm thinking she has a good relationship with Kevin.
Okay.
See what they come back to us with.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good point. It's something that could be, that could be implemented again. But they did see some pretty good,
I believe Milford does one because my vet will send a couple of technicians now to help.
Yes.
All right, so if we don't have anything else, we're gonna set the next meeting.
Do you want it on Christmas Eve?
No,
All right, so the next scheduled meeting would be January 14th,
okay,
2026.
that's what the calendar says.
That's what the calendar says.
You're leaving us?
January 14th, 2026.
26, 6 p.m.
6 o'clock.
6 p.m. All right. Very good.
Motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Joyce?
That's second.
That way we
Favor?
really need to follow protocol. Oh, you second,
I second.
you second.
All in favor?
Tom,
Joyce, I.
Al and I.
thank you, everyone. Good night, happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
See you next year.
Was fast.
Yeah, well.